The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today to gain a better understanding of your auto and homeowners insurance, and also make sure that you have the most important coverages included on your policies. Before I turn the program over to the presenter, Tammy Lewis of Diversified, I'd like to get started by going over just a few brief housekeeping items. To begin, everyone is currently muted and in listen-only mode. This is just so we can keep the flow of the presentation moving and stay cognizant of the time schedule allotted. However, we do welcome and encourage questions. So if you have a question that arises at any time, please type it into the box along the right-hand side of the screen, and we will go through and answer all of those questions at the end of the presentation. Now I'd like to turn the microphone over to today's presenter, Tammy Lewis of Diversified Insurance Solutions. Tammy is a seasoned personal insurance counselor with over 20 years of experience. Over the years, Tammy has helped counsel, educate, and coach over hundreds of thousands of clients, all while offering the best insurance security possible. She takes great pride in making sure all the unique needs of each client are taken care of, and provides clients with choices and options based on their personal situation. Please welcome Tammy Lewis.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me this morning. Today, I would like to talk about the important coverage on your auto and home policies and share with you the impact of not having the correct coverage, as well as what coverage you should have. Joining us this morning are several of my current clients, as well as many others who are simply looking for additional information on how to better design their insurance programs. Part 1 of the webinar will cover your auto policy, and Part 2 of this webinar will talk about the coverage on your home policy. Before I go into the different coverage, I would like to share with you a true story that happened to a family that I had insured. The event that was taking place that day was a basketball tournament, which was happening at a location near the Wisconsin Dells. So riding in the vehicle was the dad, the mom, their son, and the son's best friend. In their travels, the family was getting hungry, so they decided to stop to get a bite to eat before arriving at the big tournament. They were traveling on a 2-lane highway, which is common when traveling to the Dells. As they were nearing the restaurant, they turned their left turn signal on and proceeded to stop for the oncoming traffic to clear before crossing the road. The driver behind them did not see that they were at a stop and rear-ended their vehicle. The hit was not hard at all. However, it was just enough to push their vehicle into the oncoming traffic, into the direct path of a semi. The only survivor of this horrific accident was my client's wife. The dad, their son, and the son's best friend were all killed at the scene of the accident. The driver who caused this tragedy, believe it or not, never had a ticket or an accident in his life. In fact, he was well known in his community for all the good he has done. Not to mention, he had plenty of driving experience. This one day, he made a mistake that he will pay for the rest of his life. The reason I am sharing this story with you is to make you more aware of the most important coverages on your auto policy. Number 1, liability. And number 2, uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. So before I go any further, I have a question that I would like to ask you. Did you know that Wisconsin has a wrongful death statute? This law was revised back in April of 1998, and it says, if there was an accident in which someone was accidentally killed, the other family will be awarded up to $500,000 for the death of a minor and $350,000 for the death of an adult. These amounts do not include any pain and suffering, lost wages, litigation, or all the other things that you're going to be sued for. So let's look back at the story that I just told you. And for the sake of my example and simple math, I will only be using the amounts that were awarded in the wrongful death statute and not include the additional items like litigation, pain and suffering, and lost wages that the driver was in fact sued for. So first, we have the death of the dad, an adult, plus the death of the son, who was a minor, plus the son's best friend, also a minor. The at-fault driver was liable for $1,350,000. That's one adult and two minors, according to the law. If anyone brought their auto policy with them, now would be a great time to pull your policy out and turn to the page that shows your coverage limits. This will typically be the first or second page of your auto policy. So if you have coverage that looks like this, you are not properly covered. The at-fault driver of this accident had a limit of $100,000 per person and $300,000 per accident, a common coverage that I often see on policies. So quite simply, this means that the most the insurance company is going to pay for any one person is $100,000, never to exceed $300,000 per accident for all injuries. The third number means property damage. In the case of my client's auto accident, this would cover my client's vehicle, the semi that hit them, the semi's load, which was destroyed, the other oncoming vehicles that were hit as a result of the collision, plus the landscaping that was damaged, damages that far exceeded the $100,000 limit that the at-fault driver had. So let's do some simple math again. Total damages for the wrongful death of the 3 people killed equals $1,350,000. And remember, the at-fault driver's policy paid a maximum of $300,000. The at-fault driver still owed $1,050,000 after his insurance paid out the maximum coverage of $300,000 on his policy. Any other economic damages were added on top of that bill. The surviving wife is entitled to live the same lifestyle that she was accustomed to prior to the death of her husband, who was the family breadwinner. Then there was a daughter away at college that is also entitled to have those expenses met. And these are just some of the damages the negligent party will be responsible for. So what happens when you don't have enough insurance coverage? According to Wisconsin State Statute number 815.19 and 815.20, your property can be seized and sold to pay off a judgment against you. So let's take a minute and think about everything that you own, like your home, your cars, your savings, investments. How about those future inheritances? Any second homes up north? Boats, snowmobiles, ATVs, motorcycles, classic cars, I could go on. And if there was a judgment against you, the only assets you can keep would include $75,000 of value in all homes, $1,000 of value in all cars together, all qualified monies, like your 401k, your pension, IRAs, those would be safe and protected. And also 75% of your income would also be protected, as 25% would be garnished until a judgment is paid off. Everything else you can and will lose. Now that we've covered the importance of liability, I want to tell you about one of the most important coverages on your auto policy, the uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. Why? Because this is what protects you and your family if you are not at fault in an accident. And the person who hit you either has no insurance or not enough insurance to cover all of your injuries, such as your lost wages, your pain and suffering, your medical expenses, plus your cost of litigation. This is an area in which we see so many claims paid. It is amazing how many hit-and-run accidents have occurred over the last several years on Wisconsin roads alone. So I would like to refer back to my story again. Since the at-fault driver's insurance policy paid a maximum of $300,000, the additional amount of the lawsuit was collected from my insured's own policy under the underinsured motorist coverage, in which we had an additional $1.5 million of coverage. The at-fault driver now owes my client's insurance company back the additional money that they paid the surviving wife. The surviving wife was immediately taken care of financially, and her insurance company aggressively went after the at-fault driver's assets. Like I said in the beginning, a mistake that he will pay for the rest of his life. So let's start looking for the solutions. How do we properly cover ourselves? At an absolute minimum, your auto liability should be no less than $500,000 per person, $500,000 per accident, and $500,000 for property damage, or a $500,000 blanket limit that combines all three categories. Furthermore, it is greatly encouraged to also purchase an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy adds an additional $1 million or more of coverage that protects your assets in the event of an accident or judgment against you. It is the best and cheapest peace of mind coverage you can purchase. An umbrella policy starts at $1 million and can be increased in $1 million increments. Unlike your auto policy, an umbrella policy protects you worldwide when traveling outside of the United States. So here's a question. Did you know that if you borrow your vehicle to someone else and they have an accident driving your vehicle, that you will be the primary person sued since the vehicle is titled in your name? People are constantly encouraged to sue. Just turn the television on. It is extremely common to see a lawsuit today for over $1 million. Most importantly, many people are for $1 million. Most importantly, many people are not aware that they can purchase additional uninsured and underinsured motorist protection on their umbrella. An important coverage that my client had on their umbrella, so the surviving wife was able to meet her financial obligations for the rest of her life. The moral of my story is you cannot control what insurance coverage someone else has, but you can control what coverage you have. Protect yourselves. More importantly, protect your family. For the second part of our discussion, I would like to talk briefly about 5 very important coverages that you should be aware of on your homeowner's policy. These 5 coverages include guaranteed replacement coverage, water sewer backup, identity theft coverage, personal injury, and special personal property coverage. For those of you who brought your homeowner's policy with you today, this would be a great time to pull your policy out and follow along. Again, these coverages are usually on the first or second page of your homeowner's policy. The first coverage I would like to talk about is guaranteed replacement coverage. Guaranteed replacement coverage guarantees that your home will be 100% rebuilt after a loss, with the same like, kind, quality of building materials as your home was before the loss occurred, with nothing additional out of pocket except your deductible. If the new building materials cost substantially more than your policy limits, you would be protected by this coverage, and the insurance company would be on the hook to pay for the additional damages. This prevents you from having to pay thousands of dollars out of pocket at the time of a loss. Many policies actually do not have this coverage automatically included. If you look at your policy and you see wording that says your increased building limit is 120%, or you see a section that gives you a limit for an additional amount, you do not have guaranteed replacement coverage. That means at the time of a loss, there is a cap on the maximum your insurance company will pay out. Anything additional comes out of your pocket. Be very careful, as many total losses exceed policy limits. Protect yourself by adding guaranteed replacement coverage to your policy. The second coverage that I like to talk about is water and sewer backup. Every single year, this is the #1 most frequently claimed loss on the home side. Many people are not aware that they do not have this coverage until a loss occurs. The average loss on an unfinished basement is $10,000. The mechanicals, such as your furnace, water heater, water softener, and washer and dryer alone will come close to the $10,000 limit. And if your basement is finished, you may want to consider increasing your limits even higher yet. Check your policy. If you have this coverage, you will see it listed. If you do not see the wording for water sewer backup, that usually means you are not covered. The third coverage I would like to talk about is identity theft coverage. This is one of the fastest growing crimes in America. Every 2 seconds, another American becomes a victim of identity fraud. Identity fraud occurs when someone's personal information is used to access money, while identity theft is when personal information is accessed, even if it isn't used for financial gain. Data breaches were one of the main sources of fraud last year alone, with 1 in 3 people who received notifications of data breach discovering their identities were used for fraudulent means. Identity theft coverage can often be purchased on your homeowner's insurance. The cost for this coverage is minimal, usually less than $20 a year. The coverage on average is between $20,000 and $30,000. This typically covers you for lost income resulting from time taken from work, legal counseling, and other fees associated with restoring your credit. I would like to share a quick story with you that actually happened to one of my clients. So one day, there was a knock on their door. Sheriff's Department, you're under arrest. Grand theft auto. And as my client stood in their doorway completely dazed and confused, put the pieces together and realized that they were a victim of identity theft. They did not recently purchase a vehicle, let alone steal one. Now, as my client was able to prove their innocence, they had to be booked and processed, and furthermore, had to hire an attorney and appear in court. After an investigation, they found that a criminal went to a local car dealership and used my client's information to purchase a vehicle. The dealership never asked to see a photo ID and therefore had no idea they were selling a car to a thief. The thief completed a financial application, which passed with flying colors, then drove off a lot with a brand new vehicle titled in my client's name, and of course, never paid 1 cent on the loan. After the investigation, which proved my client's innocence, the debt of the car loan was wiped away. However, what was still outstanding were their legal fees and lost wages. Those did not go away. I definitely recommend that everyone adds identity theft coverage to their home insurance. Fourthly, I would like to talk about a very important coverage called personal injury. This covers you in the event you are sued for libel, slander, or defamation of character. As soon as Facebook and chat rooms became popular, so did the claims for personal injury. So a claim situation occurred when some kids from school went on Facebook and chatted back and forth about their day. Common. And within that chatter, wrote some strong words about a teacher that they all had. And yes, many of their comments were harsh and quite frankly kind of hurtful. The teacher saw the postings, and since this was out for everyone to see, decided to sue the parents and won. Defamation of character. Personal injury coverage is something you definitely do not want to be without, especially because it is a huge area where claims are being filed. The cost is minimal, and with many insurance companies, is free. However, if it is not added to your policy, you do not have coverage. Please read your policy carefully and make sure this coverage is included. And finally, I would like to talk about the fifth and final coverage of the day, special personal property coverage. Did you know that if you do not have this coverage, you are only covered for 16 basic losses on your personal property, like fire, theft, wind, smoke, and the list goes on, but it is a very specific list. Burden of proof is up to you to prove your loss comes under one of these specific coverages. Otherwise, you would not be covered. Things like a power surge or something accidentally happens, like spilled soda on the computer, you would not be covered. Take the power surge, for example. Think about everything that you have plugged in at your home. Your appliances, like your stove, refrigerator, your washer, your dryer. How about that new 55 or 70-inch television that you recently purchased? Or your electronics, like your stereo system, your computer. Let's say there was a surge that came through your power lines, a common loss that occurs more often than you may think, and blew out everything that was plugged in, and then find out that you were not covered by your home policy. You would be replacing all of those expensive items out of your own pocket. A pretty big bill you would have to pay to replace everything. I strongly encourage everyone to add this important coverage to your policy. By doing so, you will actually change the policy language. Instead of covering you for the basic 16 losses, you would be covered for all losses unless they are specifically excluded. The obvious things that you would not be covered for would be if you intentionally damage something, wear and tear, acts of war, damage caused by your own pets, and damage caused by rodents. Since power surges and accidental losses are not excluded, you would now have coverage for these things. Special personal property coverage. Do not have a claim without it. Thank you so much for your time today. I would like to open the communication and answer any questions that you may have at this time. If you have questions regarding your own policy, you may email me privately. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. As she had mentioned, we will open the floor up to questions. We'll give everyone about 25 or so, 30 seconds to feel free to type those in at this time. Again, if you look along the right-hand side of your screen, there should be one of the tab selections as questions. So go ahead and type those in now. I do see at least one has come through. So again, we'll give you just a minute on there. I also want to put at this time Tammy's contact information up on the screen in case you do have to leave the webinar. Feel free to email Tammy directly or give her a call. Her phone number is listed on her business card, which is appearing on the screen right now. But again, we'll come back in about 20 seconds and then answer questions that have come through. Thank you. Okay, we did have one question come through. That question was, are the same coverages suggested for renters insurers as compared to homeowners insurance? So Tammy, if you could share that information with the group, that'd be great, please.
Absolutely. The only coverage that would not pertain to a renter's policy would be the guaranteed replacement coverage on the dwelling, which covers the structure of the home. But as far as the water sewer backup coverage, the identity theft coverage, personal injury, and that special personal property absolutely would apply to the same to a renter's policy. That's a great question. Thank you.
And it looks like that is the only one that has come in at this time. Again, Tammy mentioned if you do have a personal question, feel free to contact her directly. I'd like to take one last opportunity to thank you for your time today. We hope you found the presentation beneficial and feel a little more confident when you look at your auto and home insurance policies. Tammy's information, again, is on the screen, so please don't hesitate to get in touch with her if you have any questions, or even if you'd just like an extra set of eyes to look over your coverages. Also, for those of diversified clients in other areas, such as commercial or employee benefits, Tammy does offer educational sessions like this and some others that you could offer to your employees. So please reach out to her directly if that's something you would like to receive more information on. At this time, we will end the program, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.